So you meet this great guy at a party. He's hot, you're hot for each other. You take him back home, and the sex is good, but it's not great. And as you start to look back on your recent conquests, you start to realize that there's this pattern of everything starting off really good, a lot of chemistry, a lot of potential, but as things continue, it doesn't live up to the hype. It doesn't live up to the expectations. And even though you might be having a lot of sex, whether it's with one person or a lot of different people, you're not getting the feeling of satisfaction that you so deeply crave. So what do you do when the sex is fine, but it's not actually stimulating that really deep part within that makes you feel happy? So if we haven't met before, I'm Kay. I'm an ecstatic life coach and author of the book Journey to the Ecstatic Self. Something I explain to my clients time and again is that sex is really only about one thing and one thing only. It's something that we creatures want from our mothers, from our lovers, from our pets, and it's one word: connection. Connection! It's why we go and dine out at restaurants. It's why we go and work in a social environment. It's why we hang out with friends. It's why we have lovers and confidants and partners. Happiness and well-being is based on meaningful connections. And sex, by its very nature, aka insert body part into orifice here, is a connective act. It's an intimate act physically, right? We are entering into the space another person holds with our mouths, with our genitals, with our body openings, and it creates a very fast and very strong sense of seeing and being seen, being quote unquote vulnerable. We're letting someone inside of us. We're entering into somebody to be known in the biblical sense, but also in the true sense of you know someone through touch. You know someone when you see them naked. You know someone when you physically engage with them and touch them and sense their being. But the issue is you can only connect with another person to the extent that you can connect with yourself. If you are not able to be vulnerable, authentic, open, integrated, excited by, challenged by, nourished by your actual inner self, then you're not going to be able to offer that to another person. When I talk about personal and spiritual depth, I often use the metaphor of money. Imagine if somebody says, hey, you want 10 bucks? Oh shit, my pockets are empty. Oh well, here's an imaginary $10 bill. It's not actually going to get you very far. You have to have the goods to be able to offer it. So if you're making a bid for intimacy, for connection, for vulnerability, for seeing and being seen, you have to have a level of internal resources, a level of internal connection, internal intimacy with yourself to make sex with another person good, or even sex with yourself good, which means you have to put in the work every day to turn within and to come home to yourself, to sit in silence and allow yourself to just be. Because sex, like all relationships, is about intimacy, vulnerability, and connection. If you want to be intimate, you have to let somebody in, which means you have to enter a state of vulnerability, which means you have to be willing to let down your guards with yourself and be honest with yourself and then with other people. And until you can let those walls down, you're not going to be able to connect with yourself or with another person. In addition to this work of self-study, self-reflection, self-inquiry is basic just good emotional hygiene. That is, you go on your spiritual path and work to evolve, you're refining your inner life, you're refining your body, your spirit, and that spirit comes closer to the surface as those things that bind and obstruct you, obstruct your truth, fall away. When you meet a truly soulful person, you can feel it on their skin because their soul touches their surface. And as you get accustomed to that and live in that state, it starts to feel very comfortable and familiar. But imagine somebody who never does that. Imagine trying to have sex with somebody who has no level of soulful inquiry, self-examination. They haven't done the type of emotional or spiritual hygiene that we need to be in good working order. Like, my daily meditation practice keeps me cleaned out and sane and relatively healthy. But could you imagine if I didn't meditate? I'd be fucking nuts. It's fairly similar to trying to maybe make out with somebody who hasn't brushed their teeth in 10 years. Probably doesn't feel very good because they don't have very good oral hygiene. And as your level starts raising and you start to purify, you might go back to situations or environments or people who were a great time before, but now they don't feel so good. If you ever got used to being in a smoky environment, like back in the day when you could smoke in bars and restaurants and clubs, until you left for a few weeks, cleaned out your lungs, got used to the fresh air, and then you step back in and you're like, ooh, damn! How does anybody breathe? So too is it within us. So you have to do the work in yourself to purify, to cleanse, to clean, and then seek out others who are doing the same. So their vibration is more enjoyable, so they're able to be vulnerable, able to be authentic, able to let their guards down and really connect. Because if that's what you want, if you want good intimacy, then that's what's required. And a pretty body and a pretty face and a pretty butt or pretty genitals does not make a good lover. It's about connection. So if your sex life hasn't been satisfying for you, maybe start thinking about this. Maybe start a daily meditation practice and start to know yourself, start to become very familiar with this body that you're in, because once you come home to yourself, that's when the magic starts. That's when the gateway's open. Cosmic bliss. And once you know you, then you'll know the divine. I'm Kay. This is Ecstatic Self. Thank you for your time.